I don't know what America's about anymore, to be perfectly honest. I'm taking a meeting from you as to what America's about.
It's about God, it's about guns, and it's about Dr. Phil.
All right. I like that. I'll take that. Sure. Why not?
Ch-ch-ch.
Yes. Thank you, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
So
USA.
Kim, I'm picking up a little bit of mockery in your
Oh.
tone. I don't necessarily appreciate it, especially
not
when
nice.
Dr. Phil and
Oh.
religious liberty are involved.
Mm.
Dr. Phil is the head of the new Religious Liberty Commission, everyone. Yes, you knew that. You can never have too many commissions. And how about one on religious liberty? Well, Dr. Phil, whose full name is Dr. Phil McGraw, joining my Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, in the White House grounds for a celebration. It's in the Rose Garden in honor of the creation of not the world, not the universe, but of the Religious Liberty Commission. Yes.
So they have someone that's Jewish on that commission and someone that's Buddhist on that commission, and they have someone that's Muslim on that commission. Is that
This
right?
is it's such a cute thing to say, Kim. I don't blame you, but there's only one real God. Okay, so you can if you want to mess around with a lot of these other faiths, you can. It's so cute.
Yeah.
But we know there's only one true Savior. So let's quickly go to Dr. Phil and his remarks during the Rose Garden ceremony yesterday.
Is here, and he's a man of religion, but I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening.
Stop
nobody
1
watching.
second, Albert, because I would like to relate a personal recollection of Dr. Phil. And you can start, we only heard several seconds, so you can start again from the beginning when I stop this. So I just want to relate this one thing that I do remember quite clearly. There was a guy named Pat O'Brien. He was a famous sportscaster, hosted Access Hollywood, I think, for a while. He did a lot of different things, very versatile, very smart, and very successful. He got caught in an audio recording soliciting a stripper, I think she was, to be in a threesome with his wife or his girlfriend, and he was also way into cocaine. And that was sort of laid bare again as a result of this recording. So he was doing a rehabilitation tour, trying to rehabilitate his image that had been damaged by this recording being released. So this guy, Pat O'Brien, goes on an hour-long primetime offering with Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil at the time, white hot. He could rehabilitate, most likely, the damaged reputation of Pat O'Brien. And the last thing that Dr. Phil said, and I remarked on it to several people who had seen it, the last thing he said at the end of this hour primetime special to rehabilitate Pat O'Brien was this. He said, I've watched you interact with people when there are no cameras around.
Oh.
I've seen you, and I've been so impressed by the kind of man you are. And others won't see it because it's not on camera. But I saw it, and you were an amazing man. Well, that's a really great endorsement because it presumes a bunch of stuff not in evidence, right? but it's sort of like, wow. I mean, I guess he's right. So that was their parting shot. And I thought of that as I've just heard these words. Now, Albert, play me the Dr. Phil dance. The same dance he did for Pat O'Brien, he does for Donald Trump.
Is here, and he's a man of religion, but I've sat with President Trump with no cameras around, nobody listening, nobody watching, and I'm telling you, this is a man of deep faith, a man of deep conviction, and this is a man that wants this country to have a heart and have religion. And God bless America for giving us President Donald Trump. And
bless America.
When nobody's listening and nobody's looking, this man cares about every single person in America, independent of race, color, creed, whatever. And it comes from the heart with him. And I am proud to call him my president. And God bless you, Mr. President. God bless you. God bless you.
I'm sorry, but I mean, just I'm
don't
calling
be so
BS on
surprised
most.
when millions of people watch my interviews.
No, I know. I'm
just
very impressed.
When you, it's tens of millions. With me, it's millions. You're 10x whenever I talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Well, it's
God bless America. The end.
How do you go there? Because Dr. Phil at one point was not a Trumper. He was someone who came out speaking against Trump. And I wonder what happens to you that you swing completely the other way and, as they say, drink the Kool-Aid and now become this MAGA guy. Like what happened in between there? Did someone offer him a bundle of cash?
There is a quality of wanting to be relevant, wanting to be in the conversation. You know, I look at a lot of these people who are in the Trump administration, this billionaires boys club of cabinet officials, of lobbyists who are now running organizations in government that they have been suing for years. And I think these are people who want to be in the conversation. Why does Marco Rubio preside over the dismantling of the State Department when it's actually something that he craved doing? He wanted to be Secretary of State. He wanted to make a difference. Instead, as you may have seen in the last day, the announcement's been made that we're going to close down all of the American embassies and our presence in Africa, the continent of Africa. You're just going to surrender it. This is where the Belts and Roads initiatives of China has existed to try to, that's the soft power, warm up, if you will, that continent for more connection with the Chinese. And that same kind of thing was being done with the Americans. We've had that and that kind of relationship all over Latin America and Africa and Asia. But this is the new vision. It's an isolationist vision of the future. But Marco Rubio, to my point, so wants to be in the game that he's ready to be in the game as an enforcer instead of as a scorer. It's a weird time we live in. You realize how much ego is associated with this and how much the ends justify the means is associated with this. Why can so many politicians who know better, I mean GOP politicians, countenance what's happening right now? Because they see power and they see a reshaping of America that they might be okay with. The rise of Christian nationalism isn't something that they are so against. So same with Dr. Phil. He wants to be in the conversation. David Bowman, not about money, but about this comment. Thankfully, tens of millions of Christians reject the Christo-fascism of Trump and his MAGA cult. It is true that David's not wrong. I mean, you know, just because you're Christian, just because you may very much be devoted to the words of Jesus Christ or of all of the splinter churches that have come from the mainstream of Christianity, doesn't mean in any way that you embrace Christo-fascism or Trump and the MAGA cult, as David Bowman has said. There are many Christians who view this as an abomination, you know, who are seeing what's happening with the country and see this rise of kind of a radical right-wing fascist view, meaning kind of authoritarian, you must believe this, this will be taught in the schools kind of view of Christianity as antithetical to a lot of the teachings of Jesus. But again, then you get into almost a theological conversation, and you lose, I think, in the specifics, you lose the bigger battle. These people are in power. This is their agenda, and they will follow through and get it. And so, yes, as David says, thankfully, tens of millions reject it, but it'll be a crisis for those tens of millions because there is a momentum to what's happening in Washington, and it's real. And there's a legislative momentum, and there's a philosophical momentum, I would say, with the people in power very much embracing the kind of Christo-fascism that we're seeing.
Dr. Phil and this whole Religious Task Commission, Religious Liberty Commission,
yeah,
one of the things Trump said was that it's a celebration or whatnot of the foundational religion of the country.
okay,
Which, you know, we're going back to this country was founded on the Christian religion.
yeah.
And I I go I wonder if you ask someone who's of a different faith, let's say you're Jewish, and you got Christmas break every year at school, and you can't step into a store without Christmas carols. I celebrate Christmas. I'm not complaining about it. I just don't really feel like Christianity needs to be protected. I think this country does a pretty good job at the whole Christianity thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of has been our focus all along. So to have a religious liberty task force is ridiculous. That's the last thing we need, unless you want your religious task force to protect people of other faiths, so we can rise everyone up to the same level and we can have equity in religion. But that's absolutely not what we're doing.
Well, you're making the mistake of somehow intellectually evaluating what's going on with this administration when there's absolutely no explanation whatsoever. In fact, most of what they do is completely indefensible. So when you talk about a commission to protect religious liberty, again, it's Orwellian, the choice of labels and names for these agencies, because it is almost by definition going to be the opposite. In this case, they'll take away a lot of religious liberty. And when I say that, I mean, it does seem like, oh, come on, Mark, what are you saying? Well, what I'm saying is that, as Kim sort of noted, it's a singular vision of religious liberty on the one hand. That is to say, there's been an exclusionary aspect to this. They're not including all of these different, priests, rabbis, and mullahs, et cetera, right? It's just it's Dr. Phil and his crew.
Yeah.
But I'd also say
Ben Carson also on
the more concerning thing is that you have now federal money that's very much likely to be directed toward private institutions, charter schools specifically. These are schools that are teaching a strict religious doctrine. The test case is Oklahoma, which is appearing now before the Supreme Court. The test case is, and we talked about it yesterday with David Katz. And I really feel as though this separation of church and state, these federal monies that would now be poured into these institutions that are teaching God. It's really antithetical once again to what this country is all about. So when we talk about how the country was founded or what the precepts were, the basic tenets behind America, certainly one of them is the separation of church and state. But you've heard over and over again from Marjorie Taylor Greene on, I think that's an overrated thing. I think even Trump waffled on it. Again, Trump's just riffing it in the moment. He's the kid who hasn't read the homework, just talking about stuff. You heard him talking about the Declaration of Independence? Do you have that, Albert? The tour, prior to the Terry Moran interview, he kind of let the ABC cameras roam around the Oval as he kind of described, look at what I've done, look at these people. And again, I'll give Trump credit if he did something that, he should do. It's just that you got to admit, I mean, he seems pretty shallow, and there are moments where it really comes through. But let me say one last thing, because I don't want to be gratuitous in my criticism, but I just feel as though he's deserving, and this administration is deserving of it. You can be shallow. You can be someone who isn't super well read, who may not understand all the levers of government, et cetera. If you surround yourself with good people, and you have a basic philosophy that sparks with the American people and could lead to a brighter future, and you do ask advisors and competent people to give you their honest impressions, through that process, you might actually come up with decent policy. That's not what we have here. You have someone who is completely shallow. So when I say he's shallow, I don't want you to think like just because he's shallow, honestly, I don't disqualify him based on that. I disqualify him based on the fact that he has populated government with a bunch of people who are there just to be yes men and yes women. And as a result, his worst instincts, and that's all he's got since he doesn't know anything, as I say, he's completely shallow, are all enabled by a Congress that he has cowed and by those around him that only say yes. And so that's where we end up. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, even shallow, one-dimensional people. But the other part of Trump that's so hard for me is the corruption. The corruption is just on display in such a big way. And so a party that has that, I get it. Both parties are corrupt. The process is corrupt. There is money in politics. There are corrupt Democrats. You know, Menendez is serving time right now, and his wife as well. I've got no patience for any of them either. But what we have now is a presidency for sale, and you have on full display through the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world all the ways in which billions of dollars can be funneled into this presidency and to this president and his family, and it is completely unchecked. It's unprecedented in all of American history.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.